Hey everybody, Kevin O'Leary here with another amazing company on StartEngine. Now, Dawn, let's talk right out of the gate. Tell everybody about Popcom. What's the mission? What does it do? How have you funded it so far? Give us your big picture.
Thanks, Kevin, and thanks everyone for joining. I'm Dawn Dickson, the founder and CEO of Popcom. Popcom is an automated retail technology company. We make vending machines and kiosks smarter. So basically, the vending machines and kiosks we've been using our whole lives to just buy soda and snacks, they're pretty dumb. You can't collect customer data. There's no CRM. There's no way to understand the traffic that's going on. And me as a retailer, that's my background. I wanted to be able to sell my product, my shoes, flat out of heels in vending machines. And really, I couldn't find a smart machine. I couldn't find a machine that fit the aesthetic I was looking for. And I really wanted that e-commerce experience that I received from Shopify. I wanted that in the real world. So I started Popcom in 2017 to solve that problem, to make vending machines and kiosks smarter, bring the e-commerce experience to the real world, and allow retailers to sell any product that they need in vending machines. We've raised $4 million so far.
So Dawn, when you first brought the idea to retailers back in 2017, did they think you were crazy?
No, they didn't think I was crazy, but they definitely said, how can we pull this off? They loved the idea, but what I found was that they know nothing about the vending industry. They want to reach their customer faster and go direct to customer, but they don't know how to place the machines. They don't understand the vending industry. So a lot of education had to happen over the past several years to get the market ready, especially the enterprise customers.
Now, the big opportunity with vending is you take a small amount of square feet and you get a tremendous amount of volume through it, because you're vertically lifting the product up off the floor and you're automating it, so the cost of sale is much less. Has that proven to be the case as you've built your business out since 2017?
It's definitely the case. You know, they love to be able to get direct to customer, control the messaging, because when you're a retailer selling through another brick and mortar, you don't control the customer experience. So with vending, not only is it faster distribution, more affordable because you don't have to worry about the cost of HR and everything involved with having a human involved. But now with COVID, it's even easier because more retailers want that frictionless experience. And not only do they want to deliver it faster, but they now want no humans involved because of COVID and contactless.
So Dawn, who are your customers? Who actually was attracted to this? Who are the early adapters, and what happened as it began to grow? Was it sort of word of mouth amongst the customer base, amongst retailers saying, hey, this works? How did it go?
So we actually launched in 2020. We have our first customers in 2020, but we were going to trade shows for the past 3 years, demoing our product just to get the early adopters. So right away, companies like Procter and Gamble and many smaller many smaller companies that are medium-sized businesses sell online very strong, and they want a brick and mortar presence. So what we've realized is that a lot of these companies that sell online and they're doing millions in sales, they want to sell to customers directly, but they don't want to open up a store. So we have customers all the way from big companies like P&G and several enterprises that I can't mention because of very strict non-disclosure. And then we have 20 smaller local brands around the country that are rolling out with our Popcom local program, which features local brands in hotels, airports, and convention centers.
So what did COVID do to you? Obviously, you're right in the beginning of your big rollout, then whammo, last March, COVID hits the country. How'd that affect you? How'd you get around it? What was the outcome?
COVID definitely shook us up. So we launched our actual product and we're ready to go to market at CES last year in 2020, and also the NRF show in New York. We had big companies again like Apple indicating interest, and we were ready to go. And then boom, COVID hit, which the first thing we had to do was move our supply chain. We were manufacturing in China, and the political relationship, as well as just the COVID climate, we couldn't go over to China to work with our manufacturer anymore. And we weren't sure even if we ever could again. So we had to move quickly to move our supply chain to the United States. We were lucky to find a partner in Connecticut called Fast Corp that is now manufacturing all of our machines. We also had to make a change in the way our hardware functions. You know, again, hardware you touch, vending machines you touch, and people don't want to touch things anymore. So we had to make sure that our manufacturer could do screens and kiosks that can be used with a pen, a stylus, or a glove, so people don't have to touch things. And then we had to change our actual model. Initially, we were having the customers buying the machines, and in 2019, they were ready to pay $20,000 for a machine. But when COVID hit, retailers got hit the hardest. You know, one of the groups that got hit the hardest because they had to close down, and many of them could not get their inventory from wherever they were manufacturing. So we introduced the Popcom local program, which is a lease model to allow the retailers to lease the machines and make smaller monthly payments to get to market faster.
So that was a lot of adaptation in a matter of a few months. I mean, that's defines success versus failure for a lot of companies. You have to be nimble in a pandemic. That's what everybody's learned. Talk to me about the margins. If I'm a Procter & Gamble or anybody else for that matter, I'm pretty familiar with what my margins are when I go through traditional, maybe 1 or 2 tier distribution retail. What are the margins like when I sell through a vending machine like yours?
So the margins are actually better because you're going direct to customer and not through a third-party channel. So a company like P&G currently sells through major retailers like the CVS's and the grocery stores, and then also through Amazon. So there's always a middle person in between P&G and their actual customer. And what they came to Popcom and said, they want to control the customer experience more, and they want to have a better relationship with their customer directly. They don't want for the customer to go and buy their products at a Target or a Walmart. They want them to come to P&G. And so that's what we see a lot of the larger CPG brands saying. It's not about sales as much as it's about building the relationship with the customer directly in that customer experience. The smaller brands, they just want to be able to get in the market, get in the real world, get offline at a lower cost.
So if you think about the retail landscape, not just related to COVID, but what was happening even pre-COVID, many malls in America weren't staying open, and a lot of downtown cores were shutting down because they were getting eaten alive by the behemoths, the Walmarts, the Targets, the Bed Bath & Beyond. Where do you see Popcom in 5 years? How are you going to fit into the landscape? I mean, physical goods will always be physical goods. Everybody gets that. It's how you distribute them to people that is obviously going through a lot of change. Where do you fit? What's the growth metric? What should I think about if I would become an investor of yours? What does it look like in 36 months? What does it look like in 5 years?
Great question. So right now, what we're doing is turning unused space into retail space. And you're right, retail has changed, but the mall's not going anywhere. Now the mall's more of an experience. You don't just go to the mall to shop. You go there to eat. You go there to socialize. There's actually activities in the mall. There's a lot more things that are engaging. So Popcom can certainly bring that engaging experience and be more like of an attraction to places like malls, but we really focus on places where there's not currently retail. What we found is that during the pandemic, airports, their retailers reduced greatly. In hotels, the gift shop has closed. A lot of places that where you were getting things as a tourist, you're not getting them anymore. And so we're focusing on turning unused space into retail space to feature local products, and also places like movie theaters and hotels and places where products that you typically need, they're not available. So our adoption is coming really strong from companies who definitely want to be in places that they were not previously featured in. We have a partnership with, I believe, 600 hotels at this point to have pop shops replace their gift shop and feature local products.
So let's talk about Popcom itself, the product. You're a firmware company or a hardware company or a software company. Talk to me about logistics. You put 600 units out into hotels, you stock them. Are you able to see what's actually happening, which transaction, what products are being bought, when they're being bought? Are you capturing that data? And then what do you do to actually refill these machines? There's a lot of logistics going on here.
That's right. That's why we partner with other companies. So the vending industry is very robust. It's an old industry, it's been around for a long time, and there is a set infrastructure in place and logistics already in place. So what we do is partner with replenishment companies. So there are companies in every city that literally all they do are replenish vending machines and restock them with products. We partner with those products. We focus on being the software company, but we're software for hardware. So there is an element that we have to have as far as engaging, but we work with our manufacturer. They service the machines, they maintain the machines. So when we place 600 machines, all that means for us is that we are the software provider. We connect our retailer with manufacturers that will deliver the hardware and service the hardware. We service the software, but it takes the liability away from us to replenish, to manage machines, to if something breaks, that's not our responsibility. We rely heavily on the industry of vending that's been around for a long time, and they have this down.
What about the data? What about the data? What about the data?
I can't believe I almost left the most important part about.
Yeah, no kidding. I was wondering, hey, I mean, I threw you a softball and you forgot to hit it out of the park.
I mean, how could I do that? So we're a software company. So yes, we use facial recognition, machine learning, and blockchain technology to collect data that's happening around the machine. So to give everyone some context, when you shop on a website, your IP address is being used by the retailers to understand how you're shopping and whether or not you convert, whether or not you purchase the product, and if you're a repeat customer. In the vending space, you don't have any idea of who's walking by, how many people are walking by, and if they actually convert. So as a vending operator myself, I just really wanted to know what my conversion rate was. Is my machine in the right place? Who's walking by? How are they engaging? What's the demographic profile? So we capture age, gender, emotion, engagement. We can deliver targeted ads, targeted product suggestions, and all of these things happen using our software. So we turn these machines into what we call digital pop-up shops that do all of the selling for the retailer. So the data analytics is our sauce, and I can't believe I almost did not bring that up.
So do you sell that data? Is that an additional income stream? Is that added value to what Popcom's all about?
Absolutely. We see ourselves growing to be a big data company and providing data as a service. Right now, there's a void in the automated retail industry about understanding where the best place to put vending machines are and understanding how traffic patterns and demographic data about who's shopping with these machines. So we definitely plan to be a source of information for the automated retail industry and the retailer industry in general to understand who are in venues, who's shopping, who's buying which products. And I believe that retailers will find who they assume are buying their products may not always be right. They don't know who's buying them from online or in a store, but with our vending machine, you can know if they're male or female, you can know their age and how they're feeling and how they're engaging, which is really important.
So let's talk about what is most popular in terms of product inside your machines. What have you attracted? I mean, it's not obviously food, I imagine, or refrigerated goods. Is it higher margin product? What actually have you seen be successful selling through?
Yeah, so right now we have 21 brands launching with us in March and April, and it is very diverse. So yeah, we do have refrigerated units. So we have an a company that we're working with that's launching alcohol vending machines. We have cupcakes, we have socks, we have makeup, we have feminine hygiene products, we have shoes, we have clothing, we have grooming products, all kinds of things, anything that can fit in basically a ring box to a hat box, so about this size, and come out of the dispensing door. So we do have the ability to sell refrigerated items, frozen items, and then also almost anything that you can think of.
About payment, what systems are you supporting? Can you take in cash, credit cards, debit cards, Apple Pay, Square? What is it you use?
We do only take digital payments, so no cash unless the retailer really wants cash. But as you see, society is moving away from that, especially with COVID, and wants everything to be pretty contactless and touchless. So we take all of the payment forms that generally most sites accept, chip, swipe, tap, Apple Pay, Android Pay, Samsung Pay, and we will be accepting cryptocurrency as well.
I think we understand the product. I think we understand the model. Let's talk a little bit about you, and then we'll get into your deal. So you've been an entrepreneur for 20 years. What motivated you to do that?
I've seen entrepreneurship growing up all around me. My family are heavy entrepreneurs, but they were mainly in industries that provided service. And I have my first tech company I started in 2001, and it just was very interesting to me to see the disruption that technology was creating. So I initially started my first business just to solve a problem that I experienced, really curiosity. And I was working at a corporation, and I just didn't feel satisfied. I was making great money, but I didn't feel satisfied. I didn't feel challenged. And I seen a big opportunity for me to innovate in the digital media space, which I did in 2001. And then I got the entrepreneur bug. And even though it's crazy, wild roller coaster, I never got off. And I've loved every single hard lesson and every single victory along the way.
Okay, the deal itself, this is your third round of financing on the StartEngine platform. What attracted you to equity crowdfunding and then specifically StartEngine? And you stayed the whole journey on it. And a lot of entrepreneurs are very interested because in some ways it's a new form of financing compared to the old traditional venture capital or private equity or even hedge funds now. But you've chosen this path. Why?
I did raise our first million from the traditional route, and that experience wasn't one of my favorite experiences. And I wanted to go just another route. And I heard about the Jobs Act in 2013 and followed that legislation to understand when it would be available for us to use as entrepreneurs. And what's attractive to me was that we can open up our company to raise money from anyone and almost anywhere in the world. I have, from just years of being an entrepreneur, I built an amazing network of people. Many of them are unaccredited investors, meaning they don't make $200,000 a year, but they certainly make enough money to make an investment, and they certainly are sophisticated enough to decide where their money can go and to take high risk on early stage companies. And I felt that, since 1933, the law has kept non-accredited investors from getting in on early stage deals that are the ones that really create the real wealth. You get in early, and that's how you get the big exit, not when it hits the stock market. And so I love the fact that now everyday people like myself can get into early stage deals and take those big chances for a possible big hit. And I'm also an investor, so I just believe in crowdfunding overall as a great way to engage our community.
What kind of investors did you attract? Have you any idea of who they are? I mean, you're now doing it for at least the second time, right?
This is our third. We have over 5,000 investors. We have a very active and engaged community of investors. We have meetups. We were meeting up in person prior to COVID. Now we have virtual meetups. We're in a Facebook group together. And so there are all kinds of people. From some people invested their very first time ever in Popcom. Some are very sophisticated and seasoned investors. Several investors, I would say hundreds of them, invested their stimulus checks. So they put that Uncle Sam dollars to good use and invested in a startup. So it's just a very diverse Popcom family of investors. We talk every month, and I really love having this community because a lot of times investors are hands off, or they come to you and it feels like a parent. They're like looking at you like, what are you doing? And drilling you and going through your financials. But I love the encouragement, and I have 5,000 brand advocates that always have our back.
So I've been in the VC markets for my entire professional life. I'm going to share some data with you. You probably already know, but I'd like you to comment on it. Less than 2% of the deals in America over the last 3 years, for entrepreneurs funded out of venture capital firms, traditional venture capital firms, went to CEOs that were women. Less than 1% were women of color. It seems that you are way underrepresented in the VC community. Why do you think that is?
Honestly, I think it's just because when the venture capital community was initially established, it was in Silicon Valley, and we just weren't in that community at scale. Yes, there were some African Americans and minorities in Silicon Valley at Stanford and in the group that was creating VC, but I just think we weren't represented in that space. And I think that, it was about 5 years ago that I seen someone say there's not a diverse community of founders. So I don't think we were even as visible as we could have been to let the venture capitalists know, hey, we're here. There are women starting companies. There are Black people starting companies, because we weren't in those communities. They were pretty siloed in their own group, in their own network. And people do invest across their network, and people that they know, people that they trust, people that are referred to them. So it just took for us, for me as a Black woman, and for us as women, to make ourselves more visible, to put ourselves out there, to let them know we're here. And once we start doing that, you can see these statistics have increased significantly. And I've seen in the past 20 years just night and day of representation that we see across the board. So I just think it's just the way things were set up in the beginning, but it's ripe for disruption. And I think those statistics are going to be just blown out the water.
So for other entrepreneurs that are considering equity crowdfunding, may have never done it before, and don't really know the merits of it or the negatives of it, if you were asked to give a synopsis, and I'm sure we have many listening right now considering it, because it's just been in the last 2 years where it started to actually raise significant dollars, material amounts of money. And there's also hope that shortly, instead of the CF round being just 1,070,000, it could be increased to 5 million. So speak now to your cohort, other entrepreneurs, both men and women. If they had to choose now between traditional routes, what would you guide them? What would you say?
I would definitely say you have to do what's best, what resonates best with you. What resonated with me about working with StartEngine is because they have such a great process in place to educate the founder on the process. There's a learning curve for sure. I will I'll tell you, it's not easier to raise money from uh, crowdfunding as opposed to venture capital. They're both hard. They both take a lot of work, but it's a matter of where do you feel your network lies. And for those of us who are not in Silicon Valley or not in New York or not in these networks, you can leverage your personal community, your personal network to raise capital. So a lot of entrepreneurs say to me, well, I don't know any investors. Well, I've never been, I don't know any VCs. Everybody can be an investor when you use crowdfunding. And that's the key. You may not have to know someone that's going to write a check for $1 million or $500,000, but if someone can give you $250 and you get 1,000 people to do that, you can get to your goal. So again, the due diligence process is still very, very intense. You must have a business that's ready to raise capital. Not just anyone should sign up to raise capital for equity crowdfunding unless you're ready. It's good for ideas and it's good for companies that are scaling, but it's very important for you as an organization to have your due diligence in order and to have your organization and your product market fit and how you're going to return this money to investors. Really deeply understand your business before you go to the public to raise money.
What about terms? You find a significant difference in the terms between, I'm speaking now, you as the CEO, you're the founder, you're looking at the terms offered by venture capital firms, perhaps by private equity companies, and then equity crowdfunding. What are the differences?
The difference is the VC terms are sharky, hence Shark Tank with the sharky terms. And that's the venture capitalist's job, to make money, to invest in companies and make money. But on this side, the entrepreneur has more of an opportunity to set the terms and to negotiate the terms and really create terms that give them more opportunity to grow the business, maintain more control and equity in the company. And so that's another thing to think about, if what structure is the best. Now, I have nothing against venture capital. As I said, I raised our first round from venture capital and accredited angels, and those big checks did help us get a lot of momentum. But in the growth phase and when we need that bridge round and getting that product market fit, it was really helpful to have the cash infusion from the crowd.
I wanted to ask you about the idea of timing. One of the issues I dealt with as an entrepreneur and an operator years ago was most venture capital firms and private equity firms have a 5 to 7 year time horizon, which seems like an eternity at the beginning of the journey. But as you start to grow, that wall gets closer and closer, and they're under pressure to get liquidity, particularly as you go into the 6th year. Do you feel the same pressure with equity crowdfunding and StartEngine?
Actually, yes, I do, because a big part of equity crowdfunding is educating everyday people about what this means. You're investing in an early stage tech company that is just getting market adoption and revenue, in my case. And so people still say, when am I going to get a return? Or what are the dividends? Or how am I going to get my money back? So it's actually more pressure because everyday people are watching stock markets and they're watching, you can cash out, you can sell, and they want to do that too with these privately held securities. I have to always educate and communicate, hey, this is like a 10-year hold in a lot of times. This is a long game. You're investing early because the possibility of a large return comes in getting in early. If you're looking for a quick flip or just a hold for a couple of months, that's where you can go to the stock exchange. But a startup is not a place to put money in to get it out fast. So that's a constant education process to let people know it's going to take you 3, 5, 10 years to see your return.
Well, listen, so far so good. It seems to be working out. It's a very interesting concept, I must admit, but in some ways, I would argue that COVID is going to accelerate your outcome because people are going to start to think about other ways to get productivity out of space. And what you do is exactly that. So, I applaud the innovation, stick-to-itiveness, that's great. But let's open it up, some other questions. I've done a reasonably good job in grilling you, Dawn, and you seem to be standing up to it quite well. And I think that's good because you're in the middle of a race, but let's get some questions from others. Okay?
All righty.
Well, I have one here. What advice would you offer to other female and minority entrepreneurs? Because you fit both those categories, and that's very much in the news these days, as you're well aware.
Yes. My advice is to ignore the statistics and go for your gut. Trust yourself. Jump out there. I hate the statistics, honestly, because If I would have bought into the fact that 0.2% of Black women raise capital, I wouldn't have had the confidence to go raise $4 million. And so even though the landscape is changing, the statistics are definitely out there that they can be discouraging. So I would tell women, minorities, and anyone that has not been, that are from communities that haven't been represented equally, you are important, you're valuable, you come with a good idea, you show the investors how you can make money and how this business can scale, you can raise capital. Ignore all these statistics and just go for it.
Let's talk about the definition for you between a good investor and a bad investor, because if you use equity crowdfunding, you're going to get a large number of individuals, whether they invest 200, 500, or 1,000, whatever. You're going to get a large herd of investors. What defines a good one versus a bad one for you?
So I've had good and bad. And, I'll say all of my 5,000 equity crowdfunding investors, they've all been good. I've only had one that demanded that we give their money back and just did not understand, the whole concept of things. But what defines a good versus bad investor is just being supportive, being an advocate for the company, sharing the opportunity with other investors, sharing the product with our potential customers, helping us to get the word out there, which our retailers, our investors are one of our most amazing advocates. They post and share for us all the time. A bad investor is one that's impatient, that doesn't take the time to dig into the offering documents. Everything is out there. StartEngine is great because it's so transparent to the investor. Any question that you guys have, we have to answer it in our offering documents and in our page. Take the time to read and understand what you're investing in. So a bad investor is someone that does not understand what they're investing in and just invests and then comes back to the founder with questions, about things that were very, very well covered. So it's important that we all take the time to just read things thoroughly and understand what we're getting into in the beginning. But I love all 5,000 plus of our investors. They're amazing.
So you gave me a great segue for the last question here. You talked about your offering documents. Let's talk about your deal. I don't want you to breach any covenants around compliance, but tell me as much as you can about this current deal, what you're offering, the timing, the amount you're trying to raise. Give us the details.
Yes, so we have an open round right now in StartEngine. We're raising $5 million in a Reg A plus. We closed two oversubscribed Reg CS, which led us to the Reg A plus. We could raise more money. I don't think I can say the valuation, but the minimum investment is $250. And I can say maybe the post-money valuation is $31.3 million. And again, we've raised over $4 million at this point. And we're just looking forward to raising this round to make some more hires, really scale our Popcom local program, and roll out our regulated retail dashboard to really double down on alcohol and cannabis and vending machines.
So where can investors that are interested in your deal find more information?
If you're interested in investing in Popcom, you can go to startengine.com/Popcom. That's POPCOM. And everything is there. Like I said, there's tons of videos and resources and information. And a lot of great questions have already been asked. So definitely check out those comments to see what other investors asked us, to see if we answered your question as well.
Don, fantastic job. Now stop talking to me and get back to work.
Exactly. Got to make this money for my investors who want their return.
Yes, great spending time with you. That's terrific, and good luck with it. And, I think it's wonderful to see a woman get out there and just say, don't read the stats. It doesn't matter. You're going to kick butt. That's fantastic. Good luck to you.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody, for joining.
Bye-bye.